Hey guys, for today's video, we're going to be doing a retouch on my client. She likes more of an ombre versus a balayage, so that's what we're going to be doing today. Also, if you want to, you can follow me on Instagram at Modern Blonde by Christy. All right, here's my client's before again. It's probably been about 3-4 months or so since she's last been in. To start her service off, we're going to use Schwarzkopf Blonde Me with 20 volume and Olaplex to get the best lift possible. To start my client off, I'm going to be doing some weaves starting at the nape of her neck. If she was a client that cared about hairline foils or a money piece or pretty highlights when you pull your hair back in a ponytail, then I would do around her hairline or around her facial framing. But because she just wants more of an ombre versus any brightness directly on her hairline anywhere, I'm just going to start at the nape of her neck and work my way up. For her sectioning, I'm going to be doing diagonal zigzag sections. This is going to help give the best blend possible. I have a lot of people leave comments saying that they have a hard time blending their balayage or color, and how do they get rid of any harsh lines in the hair. And I feel like if you go through and do like a diagonal parting with like a zigzag, that's going to help break up any lines that might be created and help blend your sectioning out the best as possible. I know I've spoken about it in previous videos, but the reason why I'm using a board is because it helps stabilize my hand a little bit better. I've been doing hair for about 20 years, so if I have to stabilize the foil with just my hand, then that tends to make my hand cramp up really bad. So that's why I like using a board. And I don't really like putting a foil on the board. I would rather paint on the board. So that's just what I like to do. I feel like I can get better saturation. Also, when I'm going through and doing my balayage / foliage, I do heavy saturation. I don't just surface paint because I want to make sure that I'm getting like a good amount of lightness where I want it to be at. Sometimes I feel like if you just do surface painting, like it's too subtle, and maybe I'm not doing it right. I don't know, but that's just how I feel. So everybody does things their own way. I would rather insulate my foils and get really good lift and know that I'm getting great coverage, and that's just the way that I like doing it, preferably. These little pieces that I'm weaving out here are previously colored hair with permanent color. She had gone somewhere else before where they tried to cover up her grays with permanent color, and I've tried doing this service on her like 1 or 2 times, and I've realized that when I overlap any of that dark permanent color, it creates a lot of orange and warm tones in her hair. So you'll notice through her hair she has a lot of brassiness and warmth in some areas, and I've tried lifting past it and I just can't. Some hair will only go so far. I don't want to create any damage, so we don't lift her to a super light blonde. We just try to go as light as we can and neutralize it as much as possible. So that's why I'm leaving out some of these pieces, because I know that if I try to lift through it, it's just going to create a lot of orange and brassiness. So I'm going to section aside any of that dark color. I'm just going to try and retouch or lighten up what I've already done, not create any more warmth if I can prevent it. So that's also why I'm going through, even though we are doing more of an ombre and we're going to do a color melt, we're trying to blend her grays as much as possible. This is a part of the conversation that we had before where we talked about, does she want to completely get rid of her grays and do an all over color? But that being said, if we do that, then that's going to create a lot of orange tones. Like you can kind of see the side section that's laying down. There's kind of like a level 8 that's stuck in there, like a caramel tone that's hard to lighten past and hard to tone past also, to soften up and give it like an ashier tone. So we talked about just not covering her grays completely and doing more of like a blending. So that's why I'm taking the lightener up so high, because usually somebody wants to do more of an ombre. They don't take the bleach up as high as I'm doing. They just focus more on the ends. So the reason why I'm going so high up into her crown is because we are going to be toning this back down closer to her natural to cover those grays and blend a little bit better. So I just wanted to explain that right now. Just this is the way that we figured is going to work best for us to help blend her grays without doing like a whole bunch of gray coverage, but also allowing us to lighten the way that we want to through the ends of her hair without causing a lot of warmth. So that's just the way that we're going to do it now, and hopefully it will work. This is the first time trying it, so we'll see when she comes in next time. Does she feel like it grew out okay? Did she feel like she had enough coverage? Whatever. If she decides she wants to go back to permanent, we always can, but this is just the way that we're going to try it for today. And I'm just going to let the video play and finish foiling up the back part of her head. As I'm going through and doing her foliage, there's some areas where I'm going to go through and do more of a defined weave. That way she has a little bit more ribbons through her hair. As the toner fades, I don't want her to feel like she has heavy line of demarcation anywhere. So there's going to be areas when I'm going to go through and do more of like a weave versus a slice, just to help break her hair up a little bit more during the grow out process. as I'm going through and doing the foils on the side of her head and also the top section, this is kind of where a little bit more of the gray starts to show through than in the back. Why is that? Like, Lord, why couldn't you just have us gray like at the nape of the neck where we will never see it and never care? Like, why does it have to be front and center? I don't understand. Sorry. Anyways, so because of that though, I'm going to do a little bit heavier sectioning and foils and do them a little bit closer together. So you'll notice that I'm bringing it a little bit closer up to her scalp and I'm doing them a little bit heavier of a foil. Again, we're going to blend this back down and we're going to be doing more like diagonal sectioning to help break up the line of demarcation. That way there's no like heavy lines or anything. So just know that where I am going a little bit heavier and a little closer and straighter, it's still on a diagonal, so it's not going to be as harsh of grow out, and I am still continuing to do my zigzag partings. In this top section here, I'm not really going to backcomb as much, and that's because I don't want to backcomb any of those gray hairs out. Our point is to hopefully blend them as much as possible to help tone them back down with the color melt. And if I backcomb, I don't want to push any of those grays out and then just like they'll highlight a little bit more. So I'm just going to try and blend this as best as possible, and hopefully everything will like cover really nicely. Obviously it did at the end. Everything looked really great and she was happy, but that was my intention here, is not to backcomb this area, to make sure that I can still cover as much of those grays as possible. All right, and here's her finished application. We're gonna let this sit for about 45 minutes, check it, and reapply anywhere if we need to. Ooh, we need to blend that out. We're gonna go through and reapply some of these areas, blend out some of those color that we're trying to bust through. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we're trying to prevent from happening. So I reapplied, let it sit for another 20 minutes, and now we're gonna pull out her foils and start the toning process. For the ends of her hair, I'm going to go through with 9-0 and 9-5-4, which is like a beige blonde. This is going to help tone down her hair and not be super warm, but it's not going to be like a super ashy color. It's just going to be kind of like a nice beigeier tone, but like on the cooler side. So I'm not applying at the root of her hair. Just her hair is so thick. Like I would have to make like 4 extra bowls just to go through and apply all the way through her roots. So because I know that I'm going to go through and hit her roots with something else, I'm not even going to waste any color on her roots right now. We're just going to focus going through the ends of her hair. And then we're going to go through and make our root color, which is 5-21 and 6-0 equal parts. And that 5-21 is super ashy. You need to be careful for her hair because I know that it is so warm. I know it's not going to like over process and overtone or anything. With that 6, that neutral in there, it's going to even it out. But be careful if you're using that on somebody that didn't have a lot of caramel in their hair already. That could grab super like ashy like green. That 2-1, that stuff will kick out that brass without a problem. So, but you got to be careful when you use it. So now that I've gone through and I've done her ends, as that's processing, I'm going to apply at her roots and then like blend it all together and let it sit total for about 20 minutes. Okay, one thing I also need to say about Schwarzkopf Agora Vibrance toners, this will cover amazingly. So that being said, start at the bottom, start at the nape of the neck because it is going to get darker. This is not a translucent color. There's some toners that I don't want to have full coverage. I want the coverage. That's why I'm using this toner. But if you are somebody that just wants like a root shadow that you can see through, girl, this isn't the one. This is not it because this is going to cover it up completely. If you have somebody that wants like really bright blonde highlights with like a really soft root shadow, don't touch it. It's going to cover it up and they're going to have dark roots again. So don't do it. I really love this because, okay, look, that shot right there was perfect because you could see through to the highlights just slightly the way that the light was hitting it. This has the best coverage possible, but you can still see through just slightly to the highlights. And that's why I like this toner so much because you're going to have amazing coverage. It's not going to cover 100% where you feel like it's just super dark, but that's why I like to start at the very back to make sure that I'm going to have amazing coverage. If it grabs a little bit more in the back section, it's fine because that's where it tends to be a little bit darker anyways, but do not start at the front. It's going to go way too dark. Anyways, I'm going to start with the styling. I'm going to be using my favorite curling iron that I have by Jay-Z Styles called the J-Wave. I just did a video on it last week, the J-Wave. Or I inserted a clip last week, the J-Wave. It's my favorite curling iron because it has a larger barrel and also it has enough of a thickness to it that it's great for longer hair. You don't have to have like a shorter barrel where you're going to like, the curl's not going to reach to the end or anything. You can do extensions with this. It's perfect for all lengths of hair. Okay, look, I'm already liking how this is looking. I like that this is blending in nicely with her gray. Yes, she still has some gray showing through, but this is blending, not full coverage. Keep that in mind. So I like that root color blended perfectly with her hair. You can see through to the highlights just a little bit, and I'm really, really happy with the way this turned out. We're going to comb it out and get the final look. Also, just in case anybody asks, when I go through to retouch up her highlights and lighten through her hair again, breaking through the demi color is not going to be the same as the permanent. It will lighten a lot better, and it's not going to be as difficult as it would be if I was trying to break through permanent color. So here's her before again. Look at all that gray. I'm actually really stunned with like how this turned out. It really blended really nicely to get rid of the gray that she was having. Obviously there's a few little sprinkles here and there, but we're not, you know, it blends. It's perfect. We're feeling good about it. It's not like, oh my God, I have gray hair. No, this is like just a few, we can handle that. So here's the end result. I hope you guys like it. Something different. I usually don't go through and do like an ombre. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.